Kurt Busch announces he is stepping away from full-time NASCAR Cup Series competition. Here's what he had to say today at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, coming to you from a hotel just outside of Kansas City. I'm on the Kansas side, not the Missouri side. Out of the groove, out of the studio, but the show must go on. Today at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Kurt Busch, former NASCAR Cup Series champion, made an announcement regarding his racing future. Of course, Kurt Busch has been out of the car since Pocono this past summer when he suffered a concussion during a wreck in qualifying. Today, Kurt Busch confirmed his future plans. I'll just let him spell it out.
I know I'm not 100% in my ability to go out and race at the top level of the NASCAR Cup Series. These are the best of the best drivers, and lately I haven't felt my best. The doctors have come to the conclusion that it's best for me to shut it down for this season. And even though I've made solid gains and I've been working with all the top specialists and the team at Toyota Performance Center, I'm still not 100% and I'm still not cleared to race. As I continue to focus on my health towards being cleared, I'll be stepping away from full-time NASCAR Cup Series competition in 2023. My long-term health is priority number one, and I don't feel committing at this point to compete for a championship next year is in my best interest or the best interest of the team.
I have a lot of emotions watching that. You can hear the emotion in his voice. You can see the emotion in his face. I never really had a strong opinion on Kurt Busch. He was never my favorite driver by any means. But the roller coaster that was his NASCAR Cup Series career, that was in many ways his life for the past 20 or so years, was and is quite remarkable. He's the only full-time Cup Series driver today that raced alongside Dale Earnhardt back in the year 2000 when he was part-time. We've talked about the changing of the guard over the past few years as many veteran superstar drivers have retired. Kurt Busch, in many ways, feels like the final domino to fall. I'll throw Kevin Harvick in there, but Kurt Busch, man, he's a series champion the first year of the chase back in 2004. That was also Roush's last championship, at least up till now. He's won the Daytona 500. He's won 34 races, which is good for 25th all time. He's gone from getting booed on Sundays to now getting some of the loudest cheers. It's not been without some major bumps in the road, but by and large, Kurt Busch's career and how he grew and evolved into the driver and the person he is today, remarkable. So seeing that emotion, hearing that emotion, and knowing that we will no longer see Kurt Busch competing for NASCAR Cup Series championships, it's a lot to process. Now, let's discuss some of the details and then we'll hear more from Kurt Busch. First, he's stepping away from full-time racing. He will not drive the 45 car next year, but it sounds like he still plans to compete at least on a part-time basis. Once he is 100% cleared, that is. And he seems to believe he will get back to 100%. So I don't think this is the last time we'll see Kurt Busch driving a NASCAR race car, but last time full-time, at least. Secondly, it sounds like he is committed to staying with Toyota and 23XI Racing. He talked a lot about developing Bubba Wallace and now Tyler Reddick into a future superstar. And that's point number 3. Tyler Reddick will, in fact, join 23XI Racing next season, a whole year earlier than he was originally contractually obligated to. Tyler Reddick will drive the 45 next season. RCR put out this official statement: Richard Childress Racing has agreed to release Tyler Reddick to drive for 23XI in 2023. With Kyle Busch coming to RCR next year, we believe it is in our mutual best interest to focus on building successful programs for the future. RCR and Tyler have enjoyed a great deal of success together, and everyone at RCR wishes him well. Quite a different tone than the last time we read an RCR statement on this show. But no, it sounds like 23XI and RCR reached some sort of deal. Remember, Richard Childress said he was going to open up a third chartered team for Reddick next year, but I think it's safe to say that was always a bluff. Going back to Kurt Busch, though, he also mentioned that there's a possibility of him working for Fox, working in TV. We've heard him call some Xfinity and I think even some truck races in recent years. I think he's pretty good at it, so I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Kurt Busch take on a larger media role, see how he grows into it, see how it works out. Lord knows Fox Sports needs to try something new than they've been doing the last year or two, at least in my opinion, so I'm all for that if it works out. Those are the key details. He says he's going to continue working with Monster Energy. He wants to race and compete around the world at some point, so he still has plenty of goals as a competitor, as a race car driver, around the business, around the motorsports industry. Kurt Busch is sticking around. He's not going to just fade quietly, going to go retire somewhere nice in the mountains or on a beach somewhere. No, he's still going to work. He is still going to be very active in the racing world going forward, even if he's not driving race cars. So those are the main big key points to take away. Key details, I should say. We've talked a lot about emotions because there are, in fact, a ton of emotions swirling throughout the racing community right now. Why is Kurt Busch choosing to retire from full-time racing now? Injury. We all know that's the answer. He has not been medically cleared to compete. He says himself he is not 100%, the 100% he feels you need to be to compete in the NASCAR Cup Series at a very high level, and that's due to head injuries. Like I mentioned, he has not raced this year since that crash at Pocono where he suffered a concussion. Today, Kurt Busch was hesitant to put his finger on any one particular incident, instead saying, I've wrecked a lot of in my life.
Different wrecks this year have made it tough in the grind to get back each week to 100%. That was starting to get tough this summer. And then with the accident at Pocono, it's again part of everything that's kind of added up. It's not one circumstance more than the other.
It's easy to get riled up over safety or lack thereof with this new car, and we'll talk about that more in a moment, but it's important to note that during this 15-20 minute press conference, Kurt Busch largely seemed at peace. In fact, he said so himself.
I'm at peace where things are. I was close to the end of my contract and that full drive for a championship run. I was real close to that anyhow. And so it just happened a little sooner. But to race part-time and to enjoy things with a little less pressure, I think that will help fulfill things and close that door. But to pursue a championship and to run 36 race weekends, week in, week out, it was getting tough for my body to go through it no matter what.
When asked if he feels bitter at all about how his full-time career is ultimately coming to an end, Kurt Busch, I thought, had a very mature, somewhat philosophical response.
I just think we just need to keep moving forward with how can we make it all better together, and we can't cry over spilt milk or things that have happened in the past. And so I think guys are coming forward and talking about it, and now we're all communicating at a higher level.
He's already looking forward. You can't change what happened in the past, but you can have an effect on what happens in the future. So let's talk about safety for a moment. I think it's fair to blame NASCAR for these cars not absorbing rear impacts well. And so let's talk about safety for a moment. I think it's fair to blame NASCAR. They designed these cars, a car that does not absorb rear impacts, especially nearly as well as the previous generation did. Blame NASCAR for their simulation numbers not matching what drivers were actually experiencing inside the cars. NASCAR should shoulder much of the blame for this. But again, you cannot change what happened in the past. You can only have an effect on what happens in the future. And to NASCAR's credit, over the past few months, they have been working on potential fixes. Were they a little too reactive rather than proactive? Sure, I agree with you there. But they have been working on potential fixes, and a week or two ago, they held an actual crash test where they were happy with the results, and now they have new changes, new fixes to the rear clips in place, planned for the start of 2023. When Kurt Busch missed his first race due to this concussion, I said NASCAR needs to move fixing the next gen, fixing how it impacts. They need to move safety to the top of the list. And to their credit, it seems that they have. When they designed this next gen car, they designed this car to handle the catastrophic crashes better. When Cody Ware shot nose first into the outside wall at Texas Motor Speedway a few weeks ago, I think Ben Kennedy said on Dale Jr.'s podcast this week, that was the highest G-load NASCAR has ever seen from a front impact since they started recording that data, I think in 2011. Cody Ware raced the very next week. I know he then missed a week at the Roval because of road course, more complicated footwork, but he's on the entry list for Las Vegas this weekend. The car was built for those catastrophic impacts. It just does not handle the more mundane crashes nearly as well, especially in the case of Alex Bowman, who unfortunately is still out for at least the next 3 weeks. There's work to be done. NASCAR is putting the work in and trying to make the proper fixes, but I thought it was interesting to hear Kurt Busch did not sound bitter at all about this when he easily could. I'd like to spend a little more time really discussing Kurt Busch's legacy as a race car driver, but I know the ominous cloud of safety is going to linger over this announcement, at least for the time being. That's going to demand much of the conversation. Oh, NASCAR's new car forced a veteran driver into early retirement. I can see the headline now, and they're not unfair headlines. That, I think, is the larger story underneath everything, but I want Kurt Busch to have his moment. Like I said, Kurt Busch currently is 25th on the all-time NASCAR wins list. He's a Cup Series champion. He's driven for like half a dozen teams, and he's won for nearly half a dozen teams. He's won in a Ford, Chevy, Dodge, and a Toyota. Like, Kurt Busch is a generational driver who worked on himself, not only as a race car driver, but as a person. You could almost see the moment Kurt Busch's career trajectory pivoted and went back up once again. Someone said it during today's press conference, but I think it's true. You ask around, just about every team Kurt Busch goes to gets better. What he did at Chip Ganassi Racing those 3 years, turning that #1 team into a legit contender, boggles my mind. Look at where SHR is right now. I'm sure they would love to still have a veteran presence like Kurt Busch in their garage. He won a race for 23XI this year, and Bubba Wallace won a race. I think he's going to continue to do great things for 23XI Racing outside of the driver's seat. So I think that'll be Kurt Busch's legacy. He's had some great teammates in his past, but I think he himself has been a phenomenal teammate. Perhaps one of the greatest race car driver teammates of all time. From the early years of working with Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, Mark Martin, etc., to the Penske years, seeing a young Brad Keselowski, to more recently working alongside Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, now Tyler Reddick, who has the potential to be a future Cup Series superstar. Kurt Busch's driver legacy is one thing. I think the legacy he will continue to have as a teammate of sorts may be even greater. So I hope people are talking enough about Kurt Busch, the guy, the driver, over the next couple of days, and not just, oh, NASCAR's car knocked a veteran out of the seat early. I hope the narrative is shared evenly, because the safety stuff deserves to be talked about. NASCAR deserves a lot of criticism for this, but they are trying to put the work in to make it better. In the meantime, can we celebrate Kurt Busch for a moment? I thought it was really cool that he made this announcement at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, his home track. I know there's memories and emotions there for him. There was, I guess, no great timing for this, but all things considered, it's nice to kind of do it at home, I suppose. So yeah, a lot of emotions all around the industry today. I want to hear what you guys think down in the comment section below. Be sure to leave a comment. I'll be checking them out. But that is going to do it in this episode. We're right next to the highway, so I hope you guys couldn't hear those 18-wheelers just chugging on by the whole time. But thank you guys for bearing with me. I will be back in the studio after the Las Vegas race this Sunday, so I will see you again very, very soon. As always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. They always make the trip with me. I really appreciate your support. Like I said, I'll see you again tomorrow afternoon after the Las Vegas Cup race, the start of the round of 8. Hoping for a good one. Got a couple of mile and a halves in this round. I feel like that's the next gen's bread and butter. Let's just try not to blow too many tires. If we can avoid that, I think we'll get some good racing in the next couple weeks. We need that. We need that. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'll see you real soon.